might be good. Yes, this started. Hi, everyone, and welcome to my new series at Bronie's desk. And today we are with Pharmacist Ben. Right now,
by your first guest.
Yes, you are my
What an
first guest,
honor.
and you are my constant guest because like we chatted about.
I'm your only guest. Am I your only guest? Is that what you're saying?
Well, you will be my fortnightly guest because that's what works for you best. And
okay, I'm honored to be your guest, and I'm extra honored to be your first guest.
Oh, well, thank you. And I'm going to, this is sort of it, depending on how it goes, we will put this out there as my Bronie's World tip for Wise Wednesday, because it's Wise Wednesday here in Bronie's World. Now, Ben, I hope,
yes, ma'am.
Hopefully I've let everyone in from the waiting room, because this is all kind of new to me. And I had a couple of people, and I haven't seen those particular people on here yet. However, they may see the recording, who have said to me, and these are people who are not in our business, who are new to me, new friends and stuff, and who are a little bit dubious because of, particularly the last 3 years, of pharmacists. Okay,
so hang on.
I said to them, you are a unique pharmacist.
Hang on. I know you speak English, but it's a different kind of English. It's English with a twist. So you got to talk a little bit slow, because I have an accent, as we talked about last time. You speak okay, but I have this accent. I got this problem with my American ears. So I'm not quite understanding everything you're saying. Okay. So you said they're a little bit dubious. Did you say they're a little bit dubious?
Dubious.
Okay, I don't understand what the word is, but I get the
they're a little bit skeptical. Okay,
skeptical. I get the gist of it.
Because
about pharmacy.
Of the Big Pharma issue.
Okay. All right. So here's the deal. Let me tell you the deal.
Okay.
Pharmacy is the art of how the outside world interacts with the body to create medicinal or therapeutic changes. That's all it is. Now, in the old days, the very old days, pharmacy was herbs and botanicals. And the pharmacist would take a mortar and pestle. Do you know what that is? A grinding device. Yes. Like a little cup and a stick. He put herbs in it, and he would grind it and either put it into a capsule, maybe. I don't think they had capsules, maybe a tea, or he put it into a tincture, and he would use botanicals. And so pharmacy traditionally has been the art of using medicine from nature in order to interact with the body. Now, we didn't know about vitamins until 150 years ago, but if we had vitamins back then, they would have used that too. If they had nutrients back then, but we didn't really know about nutrients 500, 600, 1,000 years ago, 2,000, 5,000 years ago, even that's how old pharmacy is. They would traditionally use herbs and plants. That was the medicines. Then in the middle of the 19th century, in the 1800s, they figured out how to use chemicals. And the pharmaceutical industry was born. And the old-time pharmacists who took herbs and botanicals became and ground them up and put them in tinctures, became a dispenser of drugs. But that's only about 100, maybe 170 years old, that model. It's not really, it's very recent, but the marketing has been so good that today when we think of medicine, we automatically think of drugs.
Yeah.
But that's not correct. That's a meme. That's a belief that's been inoculated into the culture, but it doesn't withstand, like all memes, by the way, it doesn't withstand critical thinking. If you think about it, what is a medicine? Why should a medicine automatically be a drug? There's no real reason for it except for advertising and marketing and generational history. It's been kids learn from their parents, learn from their parents, learn from their parents, and learn from their parents that when you have a cold, you take an antibiotic, or if you have a high blood pressure problem, you take an antihypertensive. You take a pharmaceutical. So the pharmacy business, the pharmacist has been co-opted by the pharmaceutical business. And pharmacy does not necessarily have to be pharmaceutical, but it is because of marketing and because of advertising. So you can tell your friends that just because somebody's a pharmacist does not automatically compel him to being a pharmaceuticalist. Do you get the distinction I'm making here?
Yes, and that's what
Yes.
I wanted you to share. I wanted you
Yes.
to
Just because somebody's
I
a
didn't know quite how to
pharmacist
say.
does not automatically have to compel him to be a pharmaceuticalist. So I'm a pharmacist, but I'm not a pharmaceuticalist. I'm a nutritional pharmacist, and I'm an herbal pharmacist, and I'm a dietary pharmacist, and I'm a spiritual and mental and emotional pharmacist in the sense that I suggest emotional and mental and even spiritual strategies as therapeutic modalities, like you would use a drug, like a pharmaceuticalist would use a drug. So I consider myself a pharmacist in the sense that I bring the outside world, whether it's botanical or nutritional or food or even more psychological or spiritual tools. I bring those tools from the outside to the inside with the goal or the intention of creating a change, a healing or therapeutic change in the body. So you can tell these people who are skeptical of pharmacists, they're thinking of pharmaceuticalists, which most pharmacists are. Now, I happen to be a bit of a radical. In fact, I have a podcast.
Like me, that's why we got to.
Long live us radicals. The world would not change without radicals. We would still think the earth was flat. We would still be, doing leeches and bleeding and all the things medieval doctors did to heal the body. We would be doing the old ways if we didn't have radicals. So thank God there's radicals. I have a podcast, by the way, called The Rogue Pharmacist. And I'm a rogue pharmacist in the sense that I'm not a pharmaceuticalist. And most pharmacists are pharmaceuticalists. Yeah. Pharmacy is a very safe job. So it tends to attract people who are very safe, who buy into the party line, who don't rock the boat, who don't make waves. That's who pharmacists tend to attract. I'm a little weird. Even in pharmacy school, I had long hair and people didn't know what to make of me because I just loved chemistry. So I got into pharmacy because I was fascinated with chemistry, but it didn't have to be pharmaceutical chemistry. It could be vitamin A chemistry. It could be mineral chemistry. It could be plant nutrient or botanical chemistry. There's a lot of ways you can leverage chemistry and science for therapeutic value that doesn't have to do with drugs. And so I was an athlete when I was younger. I was an athlete, and I think I probably told you this. And when you're an athlete, you're always looking for an edge. So in the 1980s, I was reading bodybuilding magazines, weightlifting magazines, and in the magazines they were talking about creatine and the B vitamins and amino acids and branched chain amino acids and whey protein and all these nutrients to get stronger. And I was my 20s. I was a teenager when I started. And we were always looking for an edge. So I was supplementing in the early 1980s, in the late 1970s, I was supplementing. So I knew that you could supplement your way into a stronger body. I knew that there was this thing called supplementation. I went to pharmacy school, and in pharmacy school, we actually studied the medicinal properties of vitamins and minerals and fatty acids, and we studied diseases that are caused by nutrient deficiencies. So I was already predisposed to understanding nutrition, and then I go to pharmacy school, and I got even more educated in how you can use nutrients to help heal the body. And so I graduated pharmacy school. I'm thinking, why aren't we using these nutrients? And I also knew about the toxicities of drugs and side effects, because a lot of pharmacy school is studying toxicity and side effects. I mean, we get years of studying toxicity and side effects, and how the shape of a molecule can create different side effects, and how you can cause more or less side effects by just tweaking the shape. And we really study that hardcore. So I graduated pharmacy school. I'm pretty much expert in nutrition at this point for my personal life, for my pharmacy life. And then I'm learning about the toxicity and side effects of drugs. And I'm just in the pharmacy and thinking, why the hell are we doing the drugs? We should be doing the nutrients. And I know I don't want to bore you guys with the story, but it's a really interesting story. I started, and this is in the 1980s, I started recommending to people that they start using supplements. And this was very weird for a pharmacist to be doing this in the 1980s. I would say, maybe you want a little probiotics with your antibiotics. Nobody even knew what probiotics were. There weren't vitamins and probiotics and minerals everywhere. It was a very weird thing. Maybe you want a little vitamin C to go with that antibiotic. Maybe you want a little zinc to go with that benzoyl peroxide, or maybe you want a little essential fatty acids to go with your moisturizer. I was recommending nutrients for people who were getting drugs. And shocker, not to me, but to everybody else, they would get better, and they would get better results from their medicines. They didn't have any idea. It's much like it is today in Australia. and even parts of the United States, a lot of the United States, I don't mean to pick on Australia because a lot of the world still doesn't recognize the power of these things. But that was 40, 50 years ago. Actually about 45 years ago. So, or 35 years ago, I'm sorry, about 35 years ago. So people didn't really have any idea, and they were getting better. And their skin would get better, way better than it was if they used a moisturizer, if they took essential fatty acids. Their digestion would be better if they took probiotics. They would recover from their colds faster if they took vitamin C. Their skin would clear up if they took zinc. And they were I'm starting to see results. So Cocky Ben, instead of telling people to take nutrients with their drugs, I started telling people to take nutrients instead of their drugs. I told them, you don't want those drugs. You want to take some nutrients. Well, you know, the people like me, but Kmart Pharmacy, where I was working, they weren't thrilled with Pharmacist Ben. And, you know, in short order, I was given my walking papers. And so you know what I did? I started my own pharmacy. I started a drugless pharmacy. And as you may know, I have an expertise in skincare. So I started a skincare pharmacy where all we had was skincare products that I made, that I formulated for specific individuals, and nutrients, formulas. And I started formulating vitamin products. I would call contract packagers up, and I'd give them a formula, and they'd make a formula, and I would sell it out of my pharmacy. So I became a nutritional pharmacist starting when I was very young, even before pharmacy school, through pharmacy school, post pharmacy, into my pharmacy career. And I was doing this for several years. And I thought to myself, after doing this for a while, I said, I have to tell people this. This cannot be a secret that I just know. Nobody really knew it. It was kind of a weird thing. So I dedicated myself to telling people. And I didn't even know what to do. I'd never done anything like this before. So I started doing talks. And I put little signs up. And I had people come into my lab. My pharmacy was like a laboratory, and we had a table in the middle. And the first day, there was one person there, and it was me and one person. And then more and more people started coming. And over the course of the weeks and the months and the years that I did this, I started to get a following of people who, because this was weird. I was a very strange guy, but it was really making sense to people, and people were starting to understand. This is coming into the 1990s now. People are starting to understand more and more about nutrition. So I started to get a reputation in my little community. And then one day, I got a tape in the mail, and I looked at it and I didn't think anything of it. Dead doctors don't lie. Put it in the drawer. Didn't even think anything of it. And then a couple of days later, another tape in the mail. Dead doctors don't lie. Same thing. What is this? Put it in the drawer. Over the course of probably 2 or 3 months, I got dozens of these dead doctors don't lie tapes. I kept getting them, and I kept shoving them in the drawer. And it didn't dawn on me what they were until one day I decided to take that Dead Doctors Don't Lie tape and pop it into the cassette, and boom, it hit me like a ton of bricks. This guy was talking about things that I knew from pharmacy school. I knew from my own studies. I knew as a pharmacist, from being a pharmacist, I understood some of what he was talking about: selenium and zinc and glucosamine and the pig pack and cartilage. He was saying things that I knew were true. And I was like, oh my God, who is this guy? Plus he was saying it in this powerful way. And I was a speaker, but I wasn't really, I was just a little guy, and he was saying this like Moses on Mount Sinai, giving you the 10 commandments, the way he was saying. You know what I'm talking about? I don't know if you ever heard the tape, Dead Doctors Don't Lie. It's a powerful presentation. And I was just floored. I was blown away. And I started listening to it over and over again. I started using stuff in my talks. And then one day I'm in the gym working out and bench pressing. I look up, I tell my buddy, I say, hey, I'm listening to this tape. Dead Doctors Don't Lie. It's the most amazing thing. And my buddy, Russ, looks down at me. He goes, you mean Dr. Wallach? I know Dr. Wallach. I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? You know this guy? And sure enough, Dr. Wallach was just starting the company, Longevity. It was about a year old, a little less than a year old. And he was traveling around. He was coming to Colorado, where I live. He was coming to Colorado a lot to start the business. And Colorado was one of his headquarters for the growth of the business. And he knew Russ, and Russ knew him. And he said, you want to meet him? I said, hell yeah, I want to meet him. And then sure enough, a couple months later, I look out my window, my lab, there's Dr. Wallach and Russ and another guy. We're walking in. I'm like, holy moly. And I met Dr. Wallach, and he, because I've been listening to his tape for like on repeat, over and over and over again, he was talking to me. He must have thought he was talking to his alter ego. He must have thought he was talking to his long lost son or something, because I was repeating stuff back to him, like right off the tape, everything he was saying. And we hit it off. And next thing you know, he's like, I do a radio show every day, and I can't always do it. Would you like to do the radio show when I'm gone? I'm like, I'm like, are you kidding me? This is my mission, is to help people understand nutrition. Here's this guy who I'm like idolizing on his tape, and he's like asking me if I want to do his radio show. And sure enough, so I started doing his radio show. I was his fill-in guy, which was very regularly because he traveled a lot. And then I started doing talks at the Longevity Convention. It was a very young company. There were only a couple hundred people at the company at the time. And, little by little, I got grandfathered in until I'm part of the furniture. And all along the line, because I love chemistry. I mean, I can't even tell you how much I love chemistry. I can't express it because I love it so much. I research it voraciously because I love it. It's so beautiful to me how molecules work and how the body interacts with these molecules, and how the molecules in the body interact with the molecules of food and the molecules of botanicals, and all of these ways that our bodies can be controlled biochemically. Now, I'm always very careful to say that healing is multidimensional: spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical. I've already said it once, I'm gonna say it again. It's not only physical, and it's not only supplements. You gotta eat correctly. You gotta breathe. You gotta exercise. You've gotta have put some kind of stress on your muscles, on your body. There's a lot of things you have to do. But within the spectrum of tools that we have at our disposal to make our bodies better and stronger and to heal, biochemistry and nutritional chemistry is front and center. And I love it. So I've gotten extremely good at helping people understand how to use nutrition and use chemistry and how to understand their bodies. Because at the end of the day, you've heard of IQ, right?
Yeah.
Intelligence. Have you heard of EQ? Have you heard of EQ?
No, not really.
EQ is emotional intelligence. EQ is the intelligence. Some people just know, they have empathy. They can tell when somebody needs a hug. They can tell what to say and what not to say. Okay, that's EQ. You have a high EQ then. That's emotional intelligence. So you have IQ, you have EQ. But what I discovered is that there's another kind of Q, PQ, physical intelligence, the intelligence of the body, the intelligence of the body of how your body works. And while EQ is important to help you in your job and in your relationships, obviously, and IQ is important for problem solving and getting by in life, this is the most intimate thing to us, is our bodies. And our lack of PQ, our low PQ, is costing us health. It's costing us longevity. It's costing us contentment and pleasure. It's costing us money. It's costing us relationships, because we don't understand our bodies. The doctor says, oh, you got to stick this thing in your arm because there's a virus. Oh yeah, it's just genetic. You don't have to worry. We say, all right, I don't know. What the hell do I know? I'm just going to do it. Or we say, doctor says, oh, we got to take that gallbladder out. You don't need it anyway. And it's causing all kinds of problems. Oh, I don't know what the hell it does. Oh, that breast, it's going to get cancer someday. We should take it off just in case. Oh, well, what the hell? I don't know. Oh yeah, you got a little pelvic pain? We'll take out that uterus. You don't need the uterus. We'll put you on hormone. Oh, sure, no problem. I don't know what it does. Our low PQ puts us in a position of being vulnerable to people who are not necessarily nefarious, although some of them probably are, but are just as inculcated or inoculated with the memes and the mind viruses as we are. So yeah, there's some nefarious drug CEOs who know what's going on probably. And I understand there's probably at a high level, there's probably people who know, but most people don't. The doctor doesn't know. The doctor doesn't know. He's not a bad person. He doesn't know. I'm not saying all doctors, obviously, I'm not blaming the entire profession, but they're trained and conditioned at the level of education to operate a certain way. If you go to a mechanic, he's going to have a screwdriver. If you went to a mechanic and he had a saw, you would say, what kind of mechanic are you? Mechanics have screwdrivers, carpenters have saws, doctors have drugs. That's their tools. You don't go to a mechanic, you don't go to a carpenter to fix your car. So if you go to a doctor, you're going to get his tools. You're going to get his scalpel. You're going to get his medications. You're going to get his electrocution devices, whatever his tools are. So because we don't have PQ, we don't understand our bodies, we go to where we're told to go to take care of it. We go to the doctor. That's what most people do. My mission in life is to raise PQ. And the reason I'm in longevity and the reason I connected with Dr. Wallach is because longevity is filled with people who want to help others understand their bodies. They never said PQ because I made it up, but that's what they want to do. They want to raise PQ. That's what Dr. Wallach wants to do. He wants to raise PQ. That's what you want to do, Bronwyn, right? You want to
Yes.
raise PQ. That's what we're all about. And that's what I'm about. And that's why I'm proud to be part of, that's why I am in longevity. And that's why I'm proud to be part of longevity. And that's why I've been with longevity for 28 years. And I think it's an awesome, or not 28 years, this is my 25th year. And it's an awesome, awesome company. It's an awesome opportunity. And if you're the kind of person who wants to help raise PQ, longevity will give you an opportunity to do that. Like Bronwyn. Bronwyn, you may not have any scientific background at all, but don't you have a passion for helping people understand their bodies? Don't you have a passion for helping people get better, understand how to get better? You don't have to have a lot of science to do it. You just want to raise PQ. And longevity is filled with people like us. And this is a great opportunity for anybody who's interested in doing anything like that. If you're that kind of person, then I know there's a lot, I'm not saying it's everybody, but there's a lot of people like that who want to make a difference in people's lives at the level of health, the level of physical well-being, the level of nutrition. And if that's you, longevity is a incredible, incredible business opportunity that you can make a lot of money at. Bonus. It's not, you don't want to focus on just making the money. You want to focus on helping people, but bonus, you're going to make a lot of money too.
And that's so true, Ben. I mean, we don't have to know everything, because none of us do, because we aren't God. But we have the expertise of people like yourself and Doc Wallach and all the other awesome doctors and professionals that we have in longevity. So we just have to, be able to say, well, I don't know the answer, but I know someone who does.
You know what, though? Let me tell you something. If you can understand your toilet, you can understand your body. It's plumbing. It's all plumbing. We call it hemodynamics or fluid dynamics in general. The movement of fluid. In the body, it's the movement of blood. Hemo means blood. Hemodynamics, the dynamics of blood flow. And when I say blood, I also mean the lymph. So it's the dynamics of the circulatory fluids. Technically, lymph's not blood, part of the blood, but it's part of the circulatory system. So the lymph and the blood have to move around. If they don't move around, that's when you get sick. So the key, I call it dirty blood. You've heard me probably talk about dirty blood. Yeah. It's all about dirty blood. If you can understand the concept of stagnation of the blood leading to disease, it's not hard to understand. That's it. That's all it is. What we have to do is we have to improve the perfusion of fluids through the body. We have to improve blood flow, and we have to improve lymphatic drainage. That's it. So then the question is, how does the blood flow? How does the blood become messed up? That's really the question. How do hemodynamics become? I have to go in a couple minutes here, so I really got to wind it down. How does blood flow become impaired? Three main ways. I call it the triangle of disease. Number one, the digestive system. Number two, the blood sugar system. And number three, the adrenal thyroid complex. When the digestive system, and when I say the digestive system, I'm talking about the intestine, although all the parts are involved, the pancreas, the liver, the stomach, they're all involved. But at the point of the intestine is where the outside world meets the inside world. Remember, I talked earlier about how pharmacies, how the outside comes into the inside for therapeutic benefit. At the level of the intestine, the outside world comes into the inside world for better or worse. For better, that's how we get nutriated. That's how we get fat. But for worse, if the integrity of the intestine starts to break down, things leak into the blood. Food particles leak into the blood, and toxins from bacteria leak into the blood. At that point, you have an immune reaction, a defensive reaction in the blood, and that creates the dirty blood. That's the stagnation. Sugar does the same thing. Sugar has a clotting effect on the blood, and then the adrenal thyroid complex, the adrenal glands, when you're secreting a lot of cortisol, that causes certain parts of the circulatory system to close up, and that impairs blood flow. So between adrenal active, and then that suppresses the thyroid, and that impairs blood flow. Between problems at the level of the digestive system, the blood sugar system, and the adrenal thyroid complex, you have your dirty blood. All you got to do is work on the digestive system, work on the blood sugar system, work on the adrenal thyroid complex. And I can tell you, I do that on our next time we talk, but let me just say this. It doesn't matter whether you have multiple sclerosis, or acne or atherosclerosis or cancer or an autoimmune disease. It doesn't matter what kind of in biochemistry or in medicine, they say sequelae. That's secondary. It doesn't matter what you have secondary. If you work on the triangle, everything falls into place. Everything resolves. So you don't need to have an expertise. You don't need to come to me. I mean, I'm happy that you do. I don't mind, but you don't need to. And this last thing I'll say, and we can continue next Wednesday. I grew up in the 70s. You're a little younger than me. So you grew up probably in the 80s, but I grew up in the 70s, right?
I grew up in the 70s.
Okay, well, I won't go there.
60s, actually.
Not the topic. In the 70s in the United States anyway, we learned to question authority. And I don't like that word authority because it comes from the word author, meaning somebody's writing your story. An authority writes your story. You like that, Bronwyn? You want somebody writing your story?
No.
I don't want somebody writing my story.
My story.
Hell no. You're not writing my story. I'm writing my story. And I say, everybody should be their own health authority. So I'm happy to help, but I want everybody to be their own health authority. And it's not that complicated. And that's where raising PQ comes in. We raise PQ. We teach people how the whole system works. You become your own health authority. And you help other people be their own health authority. And that's really the mission. So I wish I'm enjoying talking to you, but I do have another engagement. I hope everybody found that interesting or edifying or at least worth a half an hour. We can do it again soon.
Yeah, sorry it was a bit short today, guys. And but Ben, now you said next week, but you said you were going to
next week I'm out of town. Yeah, I'm out of town next week.
So it'll be a fortnight, guys. And
what's that?
It'll be in a fortnight's time. We'll have you back. I know Tracy.
Yes.
Tracy had a question, but we don't have time for that right now because I know you have to go.
I do have to get on this Instagram. I'm going to go on the Instagram live now. If you guys want to just hop on the Instagram live.
And so Tracy, come back with your question in a fortnight. That'd be good.
What is Tracy? If it's a quick question, maybe I'll try and log on Instagram while I'm talking to you guys. I'm multitasking.
That's not a quick question, I don't think. I'll jump on Instagram.
Yeah, she just did a health assessment.
Okay, I got Andrea Cabrera is waiting for me.
All right.
Okay, guys.
All right.
Bye. Thanks for joining. Thank
you, Ben.
Bye.
Thanks so much.
And as I always say here in Bronie's World, I ask you all really nicely to stay safe, stay informed, be empowered, but do not live in fear, my friends. And when you have a great guest like Ben, you will be powerful, beautiful, brilliant, and most definitely brave. But come again next fortnight. Next week, we'll have a different guest if I can line someone up, a different doctor, probably Dr. Laura. I have asked her, but she hasn't responded yet. Okay, so thank you for coming and joining my first episode at my desk.
Great call, Bronie. Really proud of you.
Oh, thank you all very much. And I appreciate your support. And invite your guests. It'll be the same link every time, including for next week, if I can get Dr. Laura or one of the other great doctors that we have in longevity to help. All right. Thank you very much. But guys, I'll leave you now. Bye. Love you all. Hold on. Let me stop the recording. Might be a good idea.
Thanks,
hey?
Bronwyn. Good night, everyone.